Hello, everyone. My name is Claire Sweeney, and I am a member at large on the CBA Student Section Executive, and I just finished my final year at Western Law. This video is part of our 20 Questions in 5 Minutes video series. And today I am excited to have joining me Erin Brook, who is a family lawyer in BC. Erin, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask you a series of questions with the goal of answering 20 questions in 5 minutes. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. What is your area of practice?
I practice family law.
How long have you been practicing?
I've been practicing since 2008, but specifically family law since 2010.
When did you first get involved with the CBA?
When I was in law school.
And how has the CBA influenced your practice?
The CBA has offered me a number of resources to assist me in shifting my practice areas when I transitioned into family law. And it's also assisted me in having resources for professional development, networking, and ongoing connection to other family lawyers.
That's great. So now we're just going to ask a few questions about the beginning stages of practice for you. Where did you go to law school?
I went to law school at the University of Calgary.
And what was the most useful thing you learned in law school?
Time management. So I definitely learned to prioritize and triage my work, and it was one of the things that's transferred over into practice and has been incredibly helpful.
What's one thing that took you way longer than it should have when you were starting out?
Everything, to be honest. It should take you longer because you've never done it before and it's hard. And I always described it as putting on concrete boots to trudge through mud. But the more often you make that trudge, the easier it gets. So I still find nowadays that I'm coming across even new things this late in my practice that I have to put those boots back on and struggle through. So don't beat yourself up. It should take you a long time at first, but the more you do it, the faster you'll get.
Okay. What's one piece of advice a mentor gave you that stuck with you?
Really was to take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. And that's been excellent advice. You can't give too much to your clients. You can't give too much to your practice. You have to make sure that you manage that work-life balance, which is a phrase that we hear a lot of. So I would echo that.
And how do you like to unwind?
For me, unwinding looks like giving back to my community. I like to make sure that I'm also contributing not just to the profession, but also back to my own community where I live. I think that really helps me have a sense of purpose outside of the office. I also have a little dog and we like to go for walks down on the waterfront here. We live on the beautiful West Coast, so it's very nice to be able to get outside. So I always say get fresh air, move your body, and help your community. It's a great way to unwind.
Have you ever felt imposter syndrome?
Often. Yeah. So I was quite young coming out of law school. I went straight through university into law school, into practicing. So for me, sitting at a table sometimes with more senior counsel in both calendar years and call years makes me feel like I don't belong. But my advice to students would be your voice is just as valuable and just as important. So don't feel the need to hold back your opinions just because you think that someone is more senior to you.
Do you ever still feel imposter syndrome?
Yes, it happens a lot. So I sit at the National Family Law Section executive table with some really amazing and brilliant people. And I often look around that table and think like, wow, do I even belong here with some of these amazing lawyers? So yeah, it doesn't go away.
Who do you consider to be a phenomenal lawyer in your field?
For me in family law, I think the phenomenal lawyers are those lawyers that are doing duty counsel work and taking on legal aid files. They are definitely carrying a large load for the entire family law justice system. And I think they all deserve a great nod. A lot of the time they are working with limited information. They are trying to assist parties on the fly at court, or they are working with less resources than some of us in private practice have. And so my nod goes out to those lawyers that do the duty counsel work and the legal aid work.
What's one critical precedent that has changed your field?
For me, I think it's been the updates to the Divorce Act. So the National Family Law Section of the CBA was involved in reviewing and providing comments on the amendments to the Divorce Act. And I think that removing that possessive language of custody has been a real shift in the practice of family law and has definitely helped shape the practice. And I think it's been huge and important and a long time coming.
What website do you use the most for work?
I use Canly a lot for resources, but in family law, we often end up on Facebook pulling down information. So we do use Facebook a lot to reach out to people and to communicate, but definitely as a practical resource, Canly is one of the best.
Nice. What is one of the most challenging aspects of your job?
I think the most challenging aspect of my job is the human element of it. Family law not only deals with the law and the legal issues, but also the emotional parameters that surround it. These are people's families, their children, sometimes their entire life savings that we're dealing with. So it can be very emotional. So it's really the emotional management for clients, the human aspect of it, and the working through that process with them, helping them navigate not only the legal aspects, but also the emotional and mental health aspects.
Are there any common misconceptions about what it's like to work as a family lawyer?
I think that I've heard family law described as the pink ghetto. I think it's been described as being an easy area of law, something that you can just sort of pick up and do without any specific focus on it. I would say that that's the biggest misconception. Family law is actually more complicated than people give it credit for, not only because of the emotional aspects for the clients, but also the complexities that come with dealing with people's companies, their properties, their debts, as well as dealing with their parenting arrangements.
What is the most interesting aspect of your job?
I think the most interesting aspect of my job is that even though the law is consistent, the circumstances are always different. So there's no two files that are exactly the same. Each family is unique. And so every day, even though there's consistency in my job, there's also a great deal of variety.
Is there anything about your job that has surprised you?
There's a lot of things about my job that has surprised me. I was never going to practice family law. When I was in law school, I was adamant I was never going to do it. I took family law in law school, but I think for me, it's really the positive outcomes. And you really get to see a person evolve through the course of their file. You really get to help them work through it and you get to see them out the other end. And so for me, it's really being able to make an impact on an individual's life that I found to be the most surprising.
Is there a change or development in your field that you are hoping to see happen?
I'm hoping to see there be a greater focus on the alternative dispute resolution. That has definitely been captured in the amendments to the Divorce Act. It's something that we've been focusing on in British Columbia for a long time. I don't think necessarily a courtroom is the best place to resolve those complex family law issues, not because the law is so complex, but because the emotional factors and the motivations of the parties are so different that things like mediation really give the parties more control over their own outcomes. And in doing that, we can get better resolutions for them.
And that's the end of our 5 minutes, but I have one final question. Why should law students or practicing lawyers join the CBA?
I think the CBA is your one-stop shop for everything you need to assist you with your practice. You can get your professional development hours through the CBA. You can get your practice resources through them. You have access to discussion boards, to other lawyers that practice in your area. You have an entire network of people to work with. There's also different sections and different forums that can accommodate your practice and your personal needs and really can help you have relationship connections for mentors, for referral partners, for questions that you might have as you evolve through your practice. So I think the CBA really is a place that you can go to get everything you need to support you throughout your practice.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining us. This was really interesting and I definitely learned a few things. So thank you very much.
Thanks.